and pulls the trigger. And we are live. Hey, everyone. Welcome to SVT time. It is Tuesday. It is June 11th. This is episode 69. Did I get it right?
Wow.
Did I get it right?
Oh, why would I have that number?
This is always
that.
It is. It's episode 69. So, yeah, it's another Tuesday, another SVT time. We have another awesome guest with us here today. Myself, Dom, and Wayne. I was going to go into this elaborate intro, but Wayne Banks, thank you so much. I know it's been such a long time coming to have you on the show. I say the show for what it's worth. It is a show. It is a show. Yeah, Wayne, man, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah.
oh, thanks for asking me. I'm honored.
No, dude, it's like I said, this, and I was saying this, and I really do mean this. It's the chat and the conversation that we want to have at NAMM show or backstage at a show. And, there's just so much going on that you really can't just sit down and have a, I mean, you can have a conversation, but not like this anyway. So
yeah, I know what you mean.
The only thing that's missing is the actual tea. So,
yeah, I'm surprised that anybody other than us three would actually want to listen to it anyway. Really,
well, you'd be surprised. I mean, I know. Hang on a second. Let me go into comments here because I can check. I know we always have Paul, who's Paul Trainer from the UK. Yeah, there's people call in from all over the place. So, but now, just to give everybody an idea, I'm on the East Coast in New Hampshire. Dom is in Los Angeles, and Wayne, you're joining us from the UK, right? Back home?
Yeah, from Nottingham, right in the middle.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. The old capital back in the day.
Is it the old capital?
It's the original capital.
Little history lesson there.
So it all went wrong and London took over.
Man, no. So, like I said, I mean, we've got a ton of stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about Greece actually because that just came up just like 2 seconds before we went live here. But I literally, it was it 2 months ago, 3 months ago? You were here in New Hampshire with the Classic Rock Show.
Yeah, it was 2 months ago, was it? Yeah, I can't remember.
At least 2 months ago, maybe 3. Yeah. And you were touring, you were all over the US with that. And then when did you finally get back home? Oh,
well, now we got back home for about a little 3-week break, and then we went to Canada again for some corporate shows, which apparently I'm not allowed to mention who they're for. So it's a secret.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, we did a corporate show up in Whistler in Canada, which was beautiful. Never been there, but I've never been to that part of Canada before.
Okay.
And then we got back a couple of weeks ago from that. So yeah, it, more or less, it felt like we've been touring since January, really. So yeah, it's kind of nice to be back home. To be honest, it's good. Yeah. I love touring, but it's it's nice to get back home as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's when you're home, when you're home for an extended period of time, you want to get back out on the road. And of course, if your wife is like mine, she's always like, "So when are you leaving again?
When's your next show?"
Oh no, mine's got a list, and it says blue work and pink work. The blue work seems to be like this,
right?
And so being away for 5 months, that's an excessive amount of blue work to be done.
Yeah.
I'm never bored.
and your timeline is just the next tour is the timeline of getting all the house projects done before you leave again.
Yeah, right. And of course, speaking of which, Dom literally just got back last week from how long were you in Brazil with the colony?
5-week Brazil and then 1 week Mexico tagged on to that. So I think they said it was definitely in the world of like rock or pop rock the longest tour any international band's done in Brazil. We went to the depths of the rainforest to play. Like we went everywhere.
That's amazing. That's great.
So I'm happy to be back and still recovering a bit. But
I feel like always a bridesmaid, never a bride. You guys are just getting back from tour. I've been kind of.
We're taking you to Greece next on the next tour.
Oh yeah, you've got to go.
Hey, I'll tech, I'll play, I'll change strings, whatever.
Got you.
But
Wayne, I'm curious, any of the corporate gigs that you've had, are the fans, have you noticed, like, has anybody gotten crazier than what like a typical rock show would be? Like, are you just like, wow, this corporate gig is lit? Like, it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. For some reason, there's less people.
Yeah.
And they've all been out all, I mean, without calling everybody, they've all been out all day on the source. And so, and so they're ready for it, you know. And we also make our set more of a party set as well for that. So I mean, the last gig we did in Whistler was, even though Whistler was a great place and we were there for 5 days and beautiful scenery and all this, the best bit was the gig because it just went crazy.
Yeah.
you try not you're laughing so much it's hard to play. It's just like, look at this. These are like proper corporate people and they're off their head.
Great.
But it's
yes,
it's good.
Pen up.
That is funny, man. Yeah, well, you figure, you know, they're there to cut loose. You know, you know, so that's I don't think I've ever done a corporate gig that wasn't fun, you know, to say the least. If not funny.
There's always some mad things come off. You know, we've done them for the NHS in England before with nurses when they're off the leash.
Okay.
Stage invasion. You've not seen anything like it.
Oh,
they're all talking to you. You know how it is nowadays. We've all got in ear mods in, so you can't hear anything anybody's saying. So we're having a full conversation with you while they've jumped up on stage, and you're like,
yeah, right.
Don't understand a thing.
And you can point to your ear, and they still don't understand. Like what? Yeah, it's unreal. So
that happens a lot with Pete Thorne, who's with us on the Classic Rock Show. We're all on in ears, and Pete isn't because he likes it old school.
Yeah.
So he's always having conversations with me, and I'm like, no. You know, I'm getting pretty good at lip reading now.
You
know, it's funny you say that because when I saw you here at Hampton, it's funny. It's so ironic that you say that because it brings back. I remember you two were facing each other on stage, and Pete was saying something to you, and I remember seeing like Thorne doesn't have in-ears, but Banksy does. So it's like either Wayne is like just nodding and going and laughing and going along with it, or you're reading his lips. But I remember seeing that we're that close to the stage.
Most of the time, I'm nodding and going along with him. But there's kind of little, you know, when you're on tour for that long, especially with someone like Pete, he replaces lyrics in songs that he shouldn't do.
Oh, he's one of those guys.
He's one of those guys. and so there was a thing between him and Henry, our keyboard player, Henry Burnett.
Yeah.
That we were all replacing lyrics on certain parts of very serious songs, keeping ourselves entertained. And obviously, me and Henry are quite away from each other on the stage, so it's all lip reading, but we all know what each other's saying, and the idea is to say it at that moment and really try and put somebody off. So if you time it perfect, that's it slays everyone, you know.
I get you.
Well, this is how we entertain ourselves when we're on long tours, you know.
Yeah, you have to absolutely. Yeah, that's funny.
Also, if you're on tracks in any way, I like baking in little jabs in the audio. If there's a cue track, you can always throw people off the way. That's
true too. Yeah,
a prank thing that we pulled the last bit of the tour here. It was fun.
Yeah, well, we got our monitor guy Andy. He'll sometimes detune it slightly. So you're playing your guitar and you're like, killing himself in the background, you know.
That's awesome.
And it's just pranks.
Yeah.
That is so fun. Yeah, there's always that one guy. Like I did a corporate gig Saturday night with this one band I work with, and the guitar player always stands off to my left, and he's like, same thing. He's funny as heck, but he'll like, you know, when certain questionable lyrics come up in some of the pop tunes, I'll always hear him in my left ear. It's like, what are you laughing at, man? He'll come out with lyrics again. But anyway,
well, our drummer Tim Brown, he if we ever have an audio mic on him, sometimes it's picked up in his cymbals. he grunts like a bit like John Bonham used to. So the actual audio, and they've done that before, where they've just got that on its own, and it's going, and it's just hilarious. It's just brilliant.
Great. If Pete's not on IEMs, is he stage amps, or is it monitors coming back at him, or like does that allow you to like crank your rig a little bit more than you probably would have?
Well, it's funny because we went through that whole time of the front of house wanting the silent stage, and then Pete joined the band probably about 4 years ago, maybe longer, maybe 5, 6. Time flies, but he wanted to go back to having amps on the stage, which is great because then we all have a reason then to have an amp on stage, because otherwise there's a hole in the sound at the front of the stage.
Yeah.
So that's it. And this year he did a few clinics as well whilst we're on the tour, talking about the fact that he loves amps, and he's got his own Pete Thorne signature amp. So yeah, it's been good this year. We've been able to just crank the back line up, and it feels, even though I've got in-ears in, you do feel that force coming off the stage.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I do. I've got a love-hate relationship with in-ears. They're great because you can hear what you're playing. Because I remember the old days I used to play with Blaze Bailey, who was Maiden's ex-singer.
Yep.
And it was just a full, really loud stage, and his two guitarists were like stadium volume wherever you went.
Yeah.
And so you'd be digging in so much. I used to put loads of treble on my amp just so I could hear a click to keep the time. But I used to get so many big blood blisters and things like that. So in-ears has stopped all of that. You can actually play with finesse how you would like to play. Yeah. But you do miss that oomph behind you sometimes, you know, that you used to love when you were a kid, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, it's an interesting thing too, because I would say we're all pretty relatively new to in-ears. Anybody that's watching or as bass players, and I first started using them to protect my hearing because, like you say, you're in a situation where you're just in a freaking ridiculously loud band, and you want to isolate what you want to be able to listen to without. But now, like Saturday's gig, I told this gig same thing. I says, I'm bringing a rig back to this gig because I can't. It just doesn't work. I got to have something on stage. And then at that point, it was like, oh, I don't need bass. I don't need a full mix in my in-ears. I need the click track. I need the backing tracks, and I need vocals and cues from the MD. That's it. Everything else I can hear perfectly on stage.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's a more, especially if it's I've done a few function gigs recently where you have just your backline, and because it's not a full running around a big stage thing,
right?
You stood next to your amp. So I've ended up just taking one out and just listening to a lovely SVT pumping away. It's great. You can't beat it, you know.
Yeah,
I love,
like you say, you've still got the click track in that, you know.
Yeah, I love doing that until the like I'm laying down my head at night, and it's just like the one ear is just like.
Oh yeah.
Like that's the only bummer about that.
What do you do, Dom? Is it all in ears, or is it a bit of both? Or
this last tour was in ears, but I actually got to take out our VB88, our 8x8, the lightweight one, around and just kind of test that as like it was basically just my stage volume, and it was awesome. So I kind of had the best of both worlds there, and hoping that remains the case, because I need something to, like, even if I had no amp on stage, I'd probably use one of the what's it called, the backbeat thing, the strap,
the backbeat
shaker thing, because even just in ears, it's just there's not enough in the house for me to feel, and I don't want to depend on like what the house is to that low end, and I just miss that when it's just in ears.
Yeah,
and we did try one of those little belt things.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, I was like 3 songs in, I felt incontinent. So
yeah. The only thing I don't like about that backbeat thing, it's just so chunky, and just having, if you have wireless in-ears pack and then wireless bass pack and then that on top of it, it's just like you just start feeling like, I got the weight of the bass compounded double.
You feel like a soldier going into battle, don't you? Like, all this
It's like Batman with a bat belt. You get all the accessories hanging out. You've got probably about another 10 pounds worth of stuff hanging up your belts.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
I always find I lose weight on tour as well, and so I start off with you've got 2 belt packs on your back, and then during about midway through the tour, I've lost weight, and once our roadie Dave, he had to pull my trousers up because I was literally falling down. I couldn't stop playing because I'm standing, and I'm like, Dave, help me! My trousers are literally coming off my backside here.
In your defense too, dude, you're jumping all over the place. You're getting a full workout in that entire show, so.
Yeah, I've always been a bit like that.
Yeah. No, seriously, when I saw you at Hampton, man, it's like, I wish I could jump around on stage like that. And we're similar age too, but yeah, man, you get your full workout in on that gig. So, hey, I just want to point out, Wayne, you have a whole fan club here, dude. Like, I'm just going to call out some names here, and obviously Paul calls in all the time, but Andrew Gourlay, saying evening Banksy, Craig Reynolds, Jacqueline Linfoot, who I think she knows Andrew, and then you got like a whole fan club here, guys. So
I think it's the fans of the Classic Rock Show. So I'll say hello to them now. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Yeah, they're great. They're really hardcore, and they support us a lot. It's brilliant.
It's a great show. I will say this, man. It's like there are plenty of, I shouldn't say plenty, but there are a number of like quote unquote classic rock shows that are out touring and whatnot, but like high energy, faithful reproductions of the songs. Like, I mean, between you, Wayne, just everybody in the band, vocal wise, you have three different vocalists, female vocalists.
4 sometimes. I didn't sing the night you were there. Sometimes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because something you sing Iron Maiden or Black Sabbath tunes? Is it?
No, I as you can tell by my voice, I get the Dire Straits songs.
Oh, okay.
anything low, I get. But they didn't think that would fly in America, so we were doing that in the tour in the UK.
Okay.
I sometimes do the what they're called, ZZ Top. I sometimes do them as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Anything that's low, they give me. So
okay. All right. Yeah, you didn't sing that night, but
no.
but it's now. Do you change the set list every night, or add and subtract songs, or is it
not every night? But it is an ongoing discussion all the time. If we have a night where we're thinking, oh, that song's not working so well. So I think the first gig we did in America was Scranton. And we did the Dire Straits song. I was doing Brothers in Arms at the time that we'd just done on the whole UK tour. But they, we listened to the American guys who are in the band. We've got 2 American guys in the band, and they were like, they don't really know that here. Whether they do or not, I don't know. But so that was dropped because it's all for what's ever good for the show. It's I don't mind. I'm like, okay, we'll do something else. I'm quite happy playing bass. So
Is it a lot of audibles, a lot of like where you're just changing as you go based on the crowd, or is it like pretty set list per night?
It's pretty set, but we do, like I say, after every show, we're on the tour bus, and that's always the main subject. We're analysing what's going down, and we've got quite a few reserves, if you know what I mean, or ones we've done in the past. So, I mean, I've been doing that show for about 9 years now, so we've got a big backlog of things we can put in. And we sometimes swap the singers out as well because they're not always available. So we've got 2 of the guys, Ricardo and Alex, who came in, who were great singers. And Ricardo's done all the big shows with the Queen shows and stuff in the West End. So a lot of West End guys and things like that. And I say Jesse, who's our main singer, he's also helped me vocally. He's given me a few lessons, and it's been great. My range has increased no end. And
really,
for a definite baritone, I'm suddenly now hitting notes I never would have thought I'd hit. But it's all technique, practice. So
yeah.
And I've always loved singing. Years ago, I was in my own 3-piece kind of Green Day type of band a long time ago, and I always sang with that, and with my brother as well. We did like a dual harmony thing.
Yep.
Going back to my mum, we were trying to do like a punk rock Everly Brothers. That was the idea.
Punk rock Everly Brothers.
Yeah. So
we got to talk about this one.
Yeah. We we sang a lot of things in harmony because we always did that when we were kids. I've got a younger brother and he plays guitar. I made sure my mother bought him a guitar because he wasn't going to be a bass player. That was my job. So, so he got that, and I think some of the questions you sent me on the email, it was like, what were your earliest influences? Well, my mum and my dad, none of them played music, but they played a lot of music. Like the house was always full of music. My mum's brother was a bass player. My uncle, it was a big influence on me. That's partly why I went straight to bass. I didn't start with guitar. I'm straight in on bass because I wanted to be a bass player and a singer. I wanted to front the band. That was the idea.
Yep.
And he was dead into Jack Bruce. In fact, he played with Jack Bruce once. And Jack was just singing, and he actually played the bass. So that's his big claim to fame.
Wow. Okay.
Johnny Mayhem, his name is. I'll shout him out in case he's listening.
Okay. All right.
But
that's your uncle, Johnny Mayhem.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And he was great. We used to, as kids, would go around to my grandmother's house on every Saturday, and he'd be upstairs in his bedroom just playing at full stadium volume. And we weren't allowed in. So me, my sister, and my brother used to sit outside and listen to this wall of noise. And then sometimes he'd let us in.
Nice.
And the air was filled with smoke, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was deafening. But like the energy used to really get me as a kid. You'd be like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah, I want to shake walls. Yeah.
It's funny because out of everybody that we've interviewed and had on the show, it's like that's why I ask about musical influences or upbringing, because at some point it seems like we all kind of come from the same mold, if you will. Like, some of us have had, relatives and family members that, my uncle picked up the bass or picked up the instrument. My sister played clarinet and I kind of picked, but it all comes from like, there was always music in the house, whether your parents were playing instruments. I mean, some of the best musical educations come from our parents who never picked up an instrument. They just played everything from Sinatra to, in my case, it was Greek folk songs. So, but you know what I mean? Like that's always music going on in the house. That's the connection.
Have you ever heard of Demis Roussos?
No.
Have you not heard of Demis Roussos?
No.
In the 70s, he was a huge star in Europe.
I'm writing this
and
down.
He's Greek.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he's passed away now, but he was a big star in England. He did that song Forever and Ever. Forever and Ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was him, right? So my mum was a huge fan of his, huge. She had all his records. And so all that kind of, and he put a lot of Greek traditional music in his pop songs.
Okay.
And so going back to my little Greek story we're going to talk about, we did a corporate gig with Robin Gibb when I played for him at this Greek billionaire's house.
Okay.
And we're catching the plane over. It was on one of the Greek islands. So you flew into Athens and you flew from Athens to the island. And there was Demis Roussos at that airport. And I think I'm the only person who recognized him. I'm going, wow, that's Demis Roussos. And he was pretty old by this point, and he was in a wheelchair. And it turned out it was him. And I didn't realize he was in a band called Aphrodite's Child. So you need to check that out, Dino. And he was a bass player and he was a singer. I didn't even realize he was a bass player at this time.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
And he watched our show. So he came over to me after the show and it was very complimentary. And I was starstruck. I was going, I know who you are. I know exactly what you've done. And he asked me to play on his next album, but unfortunately, as is a very similar kind of thing that happens in my life, he died about 2 weeks later, so that never happened. I always remember that gig. I always remember that gig because right in front of us there was a swimming pool which they'd boarded over with about 3 little runways, and it was filled with sharks.
At the house you were playing at?
Yeah, it was so James Bond. It was I literally played a gig in front of a shark-infested swimming pool.
That's like right out of Live and Let Live.
Just the whole place looked like that. There's some kind of billionaire gangsters thing right on the edge of a cliff. You know,
Wow,
it was brilliant.
that's awesome.
In Greece, no less.
Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. But that's the beauty of music. You'll know as well, Dom. You end up playing places that you never thought you'd ever play.
Yeah.
I mean, we played a tennis match once in Germany. We were on the end of the stage, and it was Steffi Graf versus Gabriele Sabatini playing a tennis match, and we're playing at the end of the stage whilst they're doing this exhibition match. You know, you're thinking,
Wow.
how did this happen? You know?
Yeah, right. How did this? How did I go for? Yeah, that's just crazy. Hey, tell me how.
Sorry.
What was it like working with Andy Gibb or Barry Gibb?
Robin Gibb.
Robin Gibb. Excuse me. Yeah. Excuse me.
Well,
you were with him for quite a while.
10 years. Yeah, 10 years I was with him. Yeah, I mean that came. You know, I've never had a website. I've never really advertised myself at all. And as you know, all this is just a sequence of events that gets you there. So it actually started off being in that sequence of events comes back to 1990 when I got into a local thrash band in Nottingham in Rock City, where we were talking to Erin about.
Okay.
Where I spent most of my youth. And there was a thrash metal band called Sabbath, not Black Sabbath, Sabbath, S-A-B-B-A-T.
Okay.
And they were quite big at the time. And luckily I was in the right time, the right place, and I got that job. And the guitarist in that band was Andy Sneap, who now plays for Judas Priest and does his albums. So me and Andy have been friends for years. On this particular occasion, I'd come back home. I'd been living in London, and I hooked up with Andy. And he said, a heavy metal band needs you, but you've got to go out tomorrow and you're going to be away for 3 months. And that metal band was called Messiah's Kiss. Yep. And their manager and their record label were the same record label as Robin Gibb. So from being in a real traditional heavy metal band, that's how I got that gig, would you believe? So, you know, I ended up getting in with that. And it was great. 10 years. We like you say, we went to places like Brazil. We went everywhere. It was great for traveling the world. And
man, and and he was. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, you were going to ask me about the MD thing, I think.
Yes. Yep.
Our main MD was Nicolo Kotzeff, who was a great songwriter in his own right. And there was a few occasions where either the budget wouldn't allow or Nicolo wasn't available. So I got the job, which was great. And to be honest, it's the most money I ever got paid for doing virtually nothing. They would give me, like, at one point there was a house band and we were doing a big show in London, and they said, you've got to get in touch with the house band's MD and just show us the versions we've been playing. So Robin used to drop the keys of songs, he'd shorten songs and extend other ones. And so I just sent him a load of MP3s that we'd just done on a live DVD and just went, there you go. And then went down and went to the band's rehearsal and went, great, lads. And then got paid a fortune for it, if I'm honest. And on some occasions we'd do radio shows and they'd get a keyboard player and a acoustic guitar player who'd never played the song. So I was playing bass on that as well. And I would just go through the arrangements with them in the day. So because it was my regular gig, it was pretty easy, to be honest. So quite enjoyable. But
it's every MD that I know, it's like and we've all kind of been there, but you know, it's like it's an enjoyable gig until the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And then it's like it's your worst nightmare.
Yeah. When it all goes wrong.
Yeah. I mean, we were, would you believe, the biggest gig I ever played to, they did Robin Gibb, a double headliner, Robin Gibb and the Scorpions. And I know.
That's great.
And it was in St. Petersburg in Russia when it was all kind of opening up and all the rest of it. And this was a free gig, so anyone could turn up. So they estimated 250,000 people turned up, right? And it was just, you couldn't see. I mean, we had trouble getting from the from the hotel to the actual stage. In the end, obviously Robin went in separately. He always flew in at the last minute and flew. Elvis went and left the building straight away.
Yeah, right. Sure,
gone.
Of course.
But we were there for a couple of days setting up and all the rest of it. So we were in the hotel coming back through a minibus. There was no way we're getting through there. So we all just went, you know what, we're better off just all getting out of the van and walking down this side and getting through this barrier. And we all had the passes. So we did. And we ended up coming through the crowd all a bit bedraggled, much to the manager's annoyance, who was going, this looks so unprofessional. Like, we didn't get in here unless we get here. You know, we did this. But I remember that time, and I hope Niccolo Kotzeff will forgive me for saying this, but he'd written out, we were doing it with orchestras. We were doing lots of tours with orchestras. So we had the Russian National Philharmonic or whatever they were called behind us.
Oh.
And we were playing one song and it had a descending bass line. So I'm going dum, 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 that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he just, there was 2 double basses in the orchestra, and he'd just give him the bass note of the chord. That's what he'd written on the staff. Now, luckily, I do know how to read music, and I could hear them doing it. And so when they're playing a G and I'm playing an F sharp, that's like 3 basses going wrong.
Yeah.
And I remember at that point having to go up and just say to the lads, like, this one here, and they couldn't speak English, but luckily we could speak the language of music, so we're going here, it's this, you know. And so like you say, when things go wrong, it's a bit
you know.
Then
everybody's pointing to you at that point. But
there was, you had mentioned I'm trying to look back in these comments here because there was one I wanted to, you hadn't mentioned Andy Sneap. Mark had a question about if you still have the active pickups in the Fender that Andy Sneap smashed in.
Well, here is the said Fender.
This is the Fender. This is the Fender. Yeah.
Look at that neck. That's incredible.
So it's funny because me and Andy talk about this bass all the time, because when I first got the gig with him when I was 20 years old, this was a natural wood color. And that wouldn't do for a thrash metal band. No way, right. So, and it had the original pickups in, and it sounded like a great P bass. But at that time, when you're that young, Andy's like, and Andy was in charge. It was like, no, we've got to make it active. So we got the active. We put active EMGs in it. If you ever lift this scratch plate up, it looks like tunnels and holes and all kinds of things, right? And Andy did all that with drills and chisels and made a right mess of it, to be honest. So I went for the old Billy Sheehan thing. As you can see here, I even tried to scallop the frets. I kind of got so far and gave in and didn't realize why I was doing it, to be honest. Just that Billy Sheehan had done it, so we all did it. And so I had the EBO pickup there and the dual output, and I even had a tremolo on it at one point, and that was awful because every time you used it, it went out of tune.
Well, now with all that routing, it's a unique bass in its own. It's probably like a chambered, almost acoustic kind of vibe, you know.
Sounds amazing. I love that bass. And it's still the heaviest bass I've ever picked up in my life. And that's after Andy hacked off the tree.
That's funny. Now you've had that bass since you were 18 years old. If I remember our conversation, that was like one of your first basses. That yeah.
Well, the funny thing was, it was all when obviously we listened to my mum's music, going back to what we did earlier. And it was all Elvis, Everly Brothers, and all the 50s stuff, and she was in that camp. Her younger sister, my auntie, she was in the Beatles camp, so there was a lot of competition there. There was a lot of parties around our house where the music never stopped, and literally music never stopped. My mum was always playing it really loud to get over the sound of the old vacuum cleaners that were really loud. So it was louder than that. So the house was shaking. And then we've got an older sister in, but she was coming of age and she was into all the 80s stuff like Bauhaus and all the goth type stuff. So she'd be competing with my mum upstairs, like rattling like this. And so if like me and my brother used to sometimes we shared a room, me and my brother, we sometimes go halfway up the stairs and the mix, the cacophony was just off the scale. Anyway, I've got off the point, haven't I?
No. That's
safe, weren't you?
That's what. And Dino, you have record Sundays, right? You have a new record every Sunday. You play in your house.
Yes. So long story short, I inherited the family's Magnavox stereo console that I grew up listening to, and it's in my living room now. So every Sunday, usually when the kids are home, when I say the kids, the girls, they're 20 and 27 and 28 and 21 now. But Sunday mornings when I'm making breakfast, I've got this huge album collection that was donated to me. I don't even know what I'm playing half the time. I just pull albums out randomly and just play it. Some of them are real, like this weekend was Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, which was like that. I was cranking, but yeah, that's, just for that same reason. Like every time I put a record on that player, I'm instantly transformed back to when I was a young kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
A funny story is myself and my brother. We used to share our the bedroom, and we used to we both used to have amplifiers in there. And from my uncle, we used to get whatever his cast-offs were. So we've got these big old home. He had a friend that used to do homemade amplifiers. So we had these things, and we'd stack them up, and we'd go from the floor to the ceiling of any old hodgepodge things that we could put in. And then one day, my parents went out shopping or whatever they did. So we're looking, they've gone. So we'd crank up the volume, and we're just playing along to an Iron Maiden album or something like this. But we're playing full on, and the whole place is humming like this. And when my mum got back, the neighbours were complaining and going, "What are they doing? This, that, the other, right?" So my mum came in, and she didn't like any neighbour to do anything. So she just came in. She went, "Right, you two," and she put her stereo on full blast, just to, and she's out the window just shouting abuse at the neighbours.
That is perfect. Oh,
and then she told us off, but they weren't allowed to tell her off.
No, exactly. That's like the old, the old. It's not the old meme that goes around right now. My neighbors listen to great music whether they want to or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now you and your brother just did a recording too, if I'm not mistaken. Like when you got back, you told me you and your brother were working on something.
We're working on the new. Going back to the Robin Gibb story, the band Messiah's Kiss was still in that.
Okay.
So there's myself and my brother in that band.
Okay.
The drummer Eddie's from Germany. The other guitarist Alex, he's from Germany, and the singer is Mike Torelli, who's one of your countrymen.
Yeah.
And that's what this album is. This is kind of, I'd say, Mike's. This is a band called Holy Mother. This is Mike's. Well, I wouldn't say solo band because he shares it with the drummer, Jim, who's been doing that band for a long time. They were also on the same label. So I got to know Mike because he's also the singer of Messiah's Kiss. So we're doing a new Messiah's Kiss album.
Okay.
We're writing that at the moment, which is one of the reasons I'm quite happy to be at home now, because we've got all this material and we're trying to put it together, and it's quite good and it's exciting. It's nice to sometimes just create. I mean, however much I love doing the classic rock show, it is a cover band.
Yeah.
Whereas my part's always been in doing original music. So we've got that. So obviously I did that album with Mike last year, and it's just been released. And we're just finalizing the Messiah's Kiss one. At the moment, we've got too many songs, and we're doing that kind of, that one's better than that one, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we're going over there in 2 weeks to do a bit more recording there. So it's always nice. They've got a great rehearsal room over there, and they're the most accommodating of people. We always say to Eddie, who's the main guy there, the German guy, we're saying, why did we ever have a war with you? Because we're actually just so similar. That wasn't us, it was the Austrian guy.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. He invaded Germany. He just happened to invade Germany first, unfortunately. But again, music, the common bond right there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go back to. I want to paste that link in the comments for anybody that wants to follow it. Let me just make sure. I think I did this right, and I apologize to anybody that's following along if I didn't. Okay, so I know it's this weird link, but I wanted to talk about that because it just dropped like 3 days ago.
It did, yeah. We've got some festivals coming up in France in August, I believe.
Okay.
It's always a bit difficult because obviously with bands of this size, our budget is really tight. So with Mike being in America and the other two guys are in America,
Yep.
I can't always get over to America to do their shows because it costs a lot of money. So it depends what they get. I mean, I got over last July. So we did a show and we finished off the recording. So they've got a few of the local shows, and they've got a local guy there, Rodney, who kind of stands in for me whilst we're doing it.
Okay.
And I usually do the European stuff, but yeah, it's just difficult when, obviously, as you know, when the internet came along, the whole music business changed. So unless you've got a band that's really up there with a big budget, we're kind of lower division, if you know what I mean, trying to survive.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, that as well as anybody that's out there, it's gotten more and more expensive just to do anything, obviously. But for a touring band to be able to bring gear on the road and merch and sell tickets and make it, at least make some kind of, or at least recoup your losses, not even make
exactly, just
like
the
make
cost.
it work. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And obviously, sorry, Dom.
No, I wanted to make sure everybody got. There you go.
Yeah,
they got the .com. Yeah, thanks, Haji.
Yeah, thanks, Haji. Rather than the big long explanation.
Its version and then Dino's Greek version. Which is...
Thanks, buddy. Wow, right under the bus.
Sorry, go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, who's obviously the singer in Holy Mother, him and Jim, who are the kind of old school mates who've been doing this band for years, and Mike himself has put so much of his own money into it. He's probably bankrupted himself, But we did a few shows with Doro earlier on this year. We had a little break with the Classic Rock Show. My wife wasn't very happy, to be honest. We did so many weeks in the UK and Europe, and then we had a 3-week break before we did the American tour. Well, I went to Germany with Holy Mother, and we did a support run with Doro Pesch, the Queen of Metal, if you've heard of her. Yeah. And it looks like we're going to do the remainder of her tour in December. She's kind of breaking it up a bit, so to promote this album. So yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah. I got to post it over here too for Facebook. Yep, cool.
That looks more professional.
That looks a lot better than my Greek writing. I'm going to post your Facebook and your Instagram handle and everything on here too as well. So, I want
to know what's your favorite song to play, CRS song, and least favorite, and why?
My favorite song to play is when we did YYZ by Rush, for obvious reasons.
Nice, yeah.
Especially,
I figured it'd be your least favorite because of just everything about it. But awesome.
I don't know if that's just my nature, but if I go up there and I just play it, I can't play it safe because I get angry at myself. So it's one of them. You put yourself in the frying pan. You're kind of a bit nervous about it, but when you're in it, you're in the zone.
That's great.
I love that. So that I did love singing Romeo and Juliet by Dire Straits. We did that last year because I'd had a bit of coaching from Jesse Smith, and it was helping, and I was getting good compliments about the vocals. So that felt good because I'm not, the vocals is second compared to the bass, really. So that was satisfying, but absolutely terrifying. Satisfying when you did it, yeah. So I'd say that. That's my kind of thing.
Cool. Yeah.
Least favorite, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, least favorite. It's difficult because most of them we discuss it all, and most of them I enjoy.
Yeah.
I can't come in with the least favorite.
That's good.
I like them all, and the good thing is, as a bass player, is I've had this funny career where I wanted to be in a punk band. I actually wanted a Fender Precision bass because I saw Sid Vicious with a Fender Precision bass, a white one. Even though at the time I didn't realize it was actually Steve Jones who'd played it on the album. Right. I thought it was Sid Vicious, and I thought he looked cool. So that's where all the taking the top off thing came off.
Okay,
it was all Sid Vicious, a Fender Precision bass, taking your top off. That's where that comes from.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to be in a punk band, and then I ended up getting into this thrash heavy metal band, and then I ended up getting a lot of metal gigs, and discovering bands like Black Sabbath and Maiden and stuff just a bit later on, really, because one of our old guitarists, Howie, he's one of those who knows everything about the history of rock music, and he used to always go, "Well, you don't know this song, you don't." So I'm going, "Not really. I was a punk rocker." And into we, you know, in the early 80s we had a big ska reggae revival thing in England, and I was really into that. So and I still go and see bands like that. That's kind of the root of where my heart lies, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And the rock was after that, and it was so even though I look the part, I'm not the part. I'm a fake.
No. You're saying
yeah, the classic rock show is good in the sense that you get sometimes when you do the slower songs, you're still playing lots of different styles, which I love doing because it was great playing the Bee Gees songs. I'm a big fan of ABBA and bands like that, and the bass player from that band was amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That stuff is difficult to play too. It's not, you know.
I played on a cover of Knowing Me, Knowing You with the singer Robin Beck, if you know who that is.
Okay.
And that was released last year, I think it was released. So there's a company called Escape Music who do a lot of compilation albums, and I'm forever recording stuff for them, and it's great because even last year I was actually on the same album, and it had Rudy Sarzo on it and Billy Sheehan, and all these people are my heroes, and I'm going, God, wow! And I'm on a couple of tracks as well. I was like,
that's cool.
That's cool. Yeah. Gigs and guitars. This is kind of plays into this. If you could play with anyone, would you, dead or alive? Who would it be? Dream list.
You know, it's funny you should say this. I was thinking about this before, and every band that I go, I'd love to play for them. I like them also because I really love the bass player. So I'll be like, would I, as a fan, like to go and see them without a bass player?
Yeah.
So, for example, I love the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I went to see them in 1990 when my wife took me along, and I was in a signed band at that point with Andy Sneap, and I thought I was the big I am. Like, I'm the best bass player around here. I've got this gig. And so she took me to Rock City to see the Chili Peppers. And then they weren't very well known in England. It was kind of half full, half empty, depending on your view.
Yeah.
And I was and I'd heard one song, their cover of Higher Ground, which I did like. But then I watched them and they were on the Mother's Milk tour, and Flea just blew me away. Well, the whole band blew me away. But then it was a real raw band in a club with just a stack. And that he changed a lot of the way I play. He got me into that whole funk thing. Through Flea, I discovered Bernard Edwards, and I discovered James Jameson, and got into that whole Motown thing, and then ended up doing a bit of a Motown tribute whilst I was doing the Robin Gibb thing as a side gig. And what a lesson that was is if then you really start to become a bass player in my eyes, because you go, so it's not all about, with all due respect to Billy Sheehan and players like that, they were my goal then, and then you go, there's all this other world of bass playing that I didn't know about, you know.
So, and Billy would agree with you on that, I'm sure too. You know,
he would, I'm sure he would, But so what band would I play with? I don't know, because I say, I mean, the AC/DC gig came up recently, didn't it? And that's got to be a dream for any bass player. Because everybody loves them. I remember when the Metallica bass player thing came up with when Robert Trujillo got it. And I remember at the time somebody saying to me, "You should go that." You know, I loved Metallica at the time, especially the early stuff. I loved Cliff Burton; he was a big influence at the time. I've got too many influences, to be honest. It's all of them. But I thought, well. And usually you get gigs, don't you? Because somebody knows somebody, and somebody knows and puts your name forward. So, and no one was doing that because I don't know anybody related to Metallica. So I somehow found the number of their management company in America, and I phoned them from England, and I went, I'm phoning up, you know, for a Metallica audition. And they literally went, and just put the phone down on me.
Come on.
I never even got to say who I was. I mean, I was nobody anyway, but you know, they were nothing. They were like, whatever. They must have had 1 million fans doing that, you know. And I thought, I love that gig because I loved Cliff.
You know, that just bothers me. That
Yeah, that was it. They literally didn't want to know, just put the phone down, whoever it was at the reception.
I remember when I was living in LA, in Hollywood, Ozzy was having open auditions at SIR.
Right.
And it was kind of the same thing. Obviously, there were the invited auditions, like, hey, come. And then it was what they called the cattle call.
Yeah.
I was teaching at Musicians Institute at the time, and a buddy of mine come in. He said, hey, man, we're going down to SIR. We're going to go audition for Ozzy.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, good luck with that. And I ended up going down with them. And like the line was like around the block, like to get into SIR. I was just like, yeah. I kind of already know who's going to get this gig, and it's not going to be anybody standing in this line, unfortunately. That's what it's like.
I've never done that. I've never auditioned for a band yet. It's all been word of mouth.
Yeah.
Learn the songs, go in and play the gig. I mean, I've got a gig coming up with Robin McCauley, who used to sing for UFO and Michael Schenker.
Yeah.
And great, there's been no audition, and I've just had a call up from the management, sent me a load of songs. I'm speaking to the rest of the band, they seem really nice guys, and we've got a festival to play, I think, in November.
Yeah.
I got the same thing with a band called Taiketo. They've called me up again. Can you come in and do this?
Yeah.
The same thing. I stood in for Saxon for a couple of gigs. Again, Andy had just done an album with him, and with the amount of gigs Andy's got me, I have to thank him straight away. And again, you don't have to audition. He's just gone, yeah, this guy can do it. So
it's at that point, it's like when I remember there was Brian Beller. He's
a great bass player.
Yeah. And I remember he did an interview with Bass Player Magazine, and it was kind of the same thing. It's like when you get to that point, they already know you can play. Like whoever's calling you already knows your reputation. You can play. You're referred, and that takes all the pressure.
Yeah.
That because some great players have blown auditions because they just don't audition well. They just
that performance, like
but then the question comes up. It's like, all right, I know you can play. I know you're a great player. You can play the material. Can we hang? Like, at the end of the night, can you and I sit at a pub and have a pint, or spend 5 months on a tour bus without killing one another?
I mean, for me, because I kind of live in my own bubble. I remember when I got the Saxon gig, and the singer Biff just called me up out of the blue, and he said, "Oh, Andy's giving me your number. We're rehearsing in Brighton. Here's the songs. Get down there." All right, great. And I got down there, and I was terrible because I'd never been a massive Saxon fan. I knew a few of their hits, and I knew Biff to look for, and I knew the bass player who I was replacing because. I think he'd also put my name forward as well because I toured with him on previous tours. But I didn't know the rest of the band members very well. So I get in there and I'm not overawed because I don't really know anybody. And I'm like, "Oh, who are you then?" I'm the founding member. And I'm like, "Oh, sorry." They're kind of all right about it. They just go, "Oh, And I ended up that was Paul, and I ended up being his roommate on the tour, and we got on fire, We still do to this day. So it's nice,
Yeah. How many years did you do the Saxon gig?
Oh, I only did a couple of gigs for them. It was just a stand-in.
Okay.
The bass player's wife wasn't very well, so I did. They did ask me to do another tour about a year later, but I couldn't do that because I was already doing another tour. So.
Yeah,
you can't let people down if you said you're gonna, even though that was for the Saxon one was for far more money and far more kudos, and you kind of like, but if you said you're gonna do something,
Yep. And that is something that sticks with your name when your name gets passed around, whether good or bad. Like, oh yeah, great player, but that you don't
do that, can you? You're committed, and that's that.
Exactly.
And I've stayed in touch with the Saxon guys, so it's all good,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's usually, if somebody calls you and says, "Hey, can you do this?" or it's like, "No, I'm sorry, I'm already committed to something else." Whether that's the answer they want to hear or not, at least they have to respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're committed to something you said yes to. So hopefully, when the tables turn and you're committed to me and another gig comes up, you're not going to bail on my gig next.
And
Exactly.
you're kind of at that point, it's like you're more hot commodity too, because you're like, oh, we got to get him when he's available. We got to.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah. Hopefully, eh?
Man, now Wayne, I got to ask you. So, with your early influences being like punk and ska, stuff like that. So obviously Sid Vicious. I kind of know the answer to this because your right hand technique, both right and left hand technique. And I don't want to get into talking too much about technique, but your technique is phenomenal. Did you like start playing with a pick and then switch to fingers, or?
I've got a hilarious story about that. I've got a hilarious story about everything. Huh?
Of course.
Yeah. My best friend at school was a drummer, right? And his name was Plough. If he's watching, he's one of the best drummers I ever played with. He's just got this natural feel, right? But he's mad as a hatter, and he'll say that yourself, right? So we started our little punk band up, and so I was playing with a pick because that's what I thought you should do, right?
Okay.
And you're in a punk band, and I literally had my strap on the longest it would go with a lace at the bottom to make it even longer. Right? So it was really down near my ankle, so you couldn't play it off, but it didn't matter because it looked cool. So, and I was playing, and then one day the guitarist in the band introduced me to the first Iron Maiden album, and he played me Phantom of the Opera with the Steve Harris bass solo, and I'd probably been playing a year or 2 years by this point.
Okay.
Just with a pick.
Yep.
And he said, and that he's playing that with his fingers, and I went, no way, because I just thought bass players who play with the fingers look like this. And and that was definitely off my radar, at that point. And so I started checking Steve Harris out, and then just going, oh, that's amazing. I've got to do that. As soon as I heard that, I was like, I've got to do that. So I started practicing with my fingers. So we'd be in rehearsals with my crazy mate Plough on the drums, and I just one day just threw the pick away, started playing with my fingers because I'm practicing. I'm just practicing whilst we're rehearsing. Yep. He spots this and he just stops playing because what are you doing? Well, I'm just practicing with my fingers. I know I'm not. No, you're not. You're playing with a pick, or else that's it. I'm out the band. You know how it was when you were like, we're talking. We're like 15 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway, this went on till one point we even got to fisticuffs, and we always got to fisticuffs. We've known each other since we were 7, And I was like, I've got to play with my fingers. He's going, if you play with your fingers, I'm out of the band. And one rehearsal, he literally walked through his drum kit, trashed the whole thing because he saw me drop my pick, and I used to like sneak and do it on the slide.
Unreal. That's funny.
And then there was a funny turning point where he started to like Iron Maiden, and we both got into Iron Maiden, and then it was all right, and then I was allowed to start playing with my fingers.
Okay.
We had that kind of a relationship, But
I had a little similar thing when I was in high school with my bandmates, where if they came in shorts and or like sandals or Birkenstocks or whatever, I was like, get out of here. Like, I can't look at you. You're not allowed. I don't care if it's 100 degrees in this rehearsal space. You're wearing pants. Like,
yeah, it was quite tribal in those days. You had to look right,
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Even now, it's like I mean, depending on the gig, but for the most part, like, I won't get too much into it. But board shorts on just a club date.
Unless this is like Mr. Dead or Fish or something.
Maybe it's just me because I don't have the nicest looking legs. I mean, they're Greek hairy legs, so it doesn't,
Maybe same here. Maybe it's a projection,
Well, both my daughters and my wife, they're all leg and not much body, and I'm all body and not much leg, so I didn't go mine either. I don't know what went wrong. Some genetics problem.
And I know we won't get into it too much, but you and I have had this discussion about, dad bass player of the same age with 2 older daughters, and the whole we live very similar lives. And Dom, you're probably not too far behind. I'll leave it at that. But
it's great. My youngest one, it was her birthday yesterday. She was 20, And like I say, she was supposed to be helping me if anything went wrong, but she decided to go out downtown and party with her friends.
Well, she's 20. Yeah, that's exactly. She got a better offer.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah, can't blame her. Well, there you go.
Oh, well, we're at the top of the hour here, but we're not done because there's one last thing that
Right.
I didn't warn you about, and it's I didn't warn you about it because the whole idea of this is I basically ask you 10 quick questions. You've seen SVT time in the past, so I ask you 10 quick questions, and first thing that comes to your mind, and it's all touring related and instrument related and stuff like that. So
I'll try not to waffle on, and we'll get through.
There's no wrong answers, but there's definitely judgment, and then we might be pulling up like we might be triggering him or re-traumatizing him from hiding thing, you know.
I thought it's a lot more sedate now than it used to be.
Yes,
but,
yeah,
in our age, you get older and you go to bed early.
Yeah, yes. All right, you ready to go? I think we know the answer to most of these, but all right. Number one, P bass or jazz bass?
Oh, P bass all the way.
Yeah,
all the way.
2, passive or active?
Passive all the way.
Rounds or flats?
Round wounds, although I do have some flats on a fretless. Which I
like. B15 or SVT?
SVT, 8x10.
Okay. Cable or wireless?
I like wireless because I like to run around, as you know.
There you go.
I love the freedom of that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And we just discussed this. Pick or fingers?
Fingers, although I do play with the pick a bit now because I had to for different songs, and I'm getting my pick together. I saw the Bobby Vega thing, and he's a great pick player. So
Bobby's
the man.
Yeah.
And that you just answered Jacqueline Linfoot's question here. Do you ever use a pick? Or do you never use a pick now, Wayne? Was her actual question? I'll post it up here.
No, actually, on the Classic Rock Show, to like I say, because it's such a good practice thing. You have to use a pick on certain songs, don't you? You can't really play AC/DC without using a pick.
Yeah.
So I've actually practiced a lot with it, and I actually do like it now.
Okay.
Just go back to my fingers thing. I know we're nearly finished, but it's funny because I was into the Steve Harris thing, but then I got into Gary Willis. Remember the jazz?
Oh yes,
Gary.
Yep.
And he does this 3-finger thing. So I've kind of got a bit of. It's kind of I've got that going off as well. So if any fingers down here, I'm kind of using those two when I do octaves and things like that. So it's a bit weird. It's an amalgamation of everyone I've ever loved.
I'll tell you a funny Gary Willis story after this because I studied with Gary, and he's not beknownst to, but he screwed up my whole right hand technique in school because of it. But anyways, all right, IEMs or floor wedges?
IEMs.
Okay. Pedals or no pedals?
Oh, I'm a pedal freak. I've got millions of here. You know, I used to really love Juan Alderete. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
And he's a pedal man, and I was obsessed with him. And so I'm a bit crazy with the pedals. Yeah.
Exactly.
I've got far too many.
Window or aisle?
Oh, it used to be a window. And now it's an aisle. Slightly older man.
Yes.
That's a great question because that's caused a lot.
Oh, yes.
I was trapped on the flight back from America. I was trapped by this lady. She's not watching, I'm sure she's not. And she decided to take, it seems like she put nothing down the hold and everything was with her. So for her to get out was a mammoth task. And for some reason, there I am having a glass of wine and needing the toilet, and I couldn't get by her, and she was asleep, and I'm like, painful. It was a painful journey. 10 hours of pain. That's what it was.
I will usually ask the flight attendant in a situation like that, like, can I just hang back here with you guys during the flight? Because I'm going to be getting up at least 10 times in a 10-hour flight. So, okay, and this kind of answers the same question: high bunk or low bunk?
Low bunk every time.
Yeah.
Low bunk every time.
Um,
And closest to the stairs as well, so I'm not disturbing anyone.
yeah, right. Oh,
You
that's
know,
right too.
I
Yeah,
mean,
because you're in a double bunker, a double level tour
yeah.
bus.
Well, you even had a double bus in America this last time. They
That's
got
right.
got
That's
a
right.
big
Wow.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. The tour bus that they were in, Dom, was a double level tour bus.
Wow.
So you walk in on the bottom level, and then you go up to I would imagine the sleeping areas up top, or the bunk areas up
Yeah,
top.
it's a
Really interesting.
European company, and I think at the time before we toured America, we had the old Prevost ones, you know, with the
Yeah.
8 bunks at the back. But
Yeah.
but I think it's a Dutch company, I believe, but they've moved into America now. They're really big in Europe. They're like the biggest one in Europe, but they've moved into
Yeah.
America now.
Yeah,
Because we were all worried that we're going to hit something.
Yeah.
especially in some of the older cities too, where they're
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Black with white piping or silver and blue? Talking about the old Ampeg Cosmetics, like back here.
Oh, I used to be black with white piping, but I think I've gone silver and blue now.
Yep.
Nice. That's,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. And then the last question.
I'd take either, really.
I'm obviously I'm all screwed up now. I'm obviously a silver and blue guy myself. But
I think I am now. Yeah.
Last question: when you're touring, what's your favorite place to eat? This question has evolved over the years, but it's more of a general question.
Okay. So America's different to the UK.
Yeah,
because what I love about America is, and we don't have this so much in England, is you go in one of them bars and it's full of screens of sports on, and they do amazing IPA beer, which I absolutely love, and they don't do that as well in England.
Yep.
And then you'll have some food that's probably not very good for you, but it's huge.
Yeah.
And, you know, and nobody does junk food like America.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're really good at that.
Yeah, we're really good at junk food.
Absolutely amazing. So I'm quite because I don't do it very often. It's a real treat, and I do love that. Yeah.
It's not like there's an obesity problem in this country, though.
I would say in the UK we've got a chain called Wagamama, which is like Asian food.
Okay.
And I did a lot of touring in Asia, so I love all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Okay.
Actually, a question, because for the CRS stuff, you're playing so many different styles of music, and for bass, like there's only so much you can change technique wise or whatever. Like you said, your pedal guide, you have a bunch of different pedals, and it's kind of like you're, dancing the whole gig, or is it like, do you have kind of like a main center where you're making all the changes?
No, pretty much. I'm going DI. I'm using a Cali 76 compressor, and then I'm sometimes a Sans amp that's got no EQ on. I'm literally using it as a straight through just to give the board the right, level. Because that's the thing. Over the years, you just get flatter and flatter, don't you, with your EQ until you're just not bothering anymore.
Yeah.
And, and I've also found this that most sound guys, they don't want a coloured sound. Well, I was going to ask you two about this. I mean, I've got the Steve Harris DI pedal as well, and I used that, and I got it because we were doing a Black Sabbath cover, and they've got a really great Geezer Butler setting in that Steve Harris pedal. So I'm literally using it as like a distortion effect pedal.
Yeah.
I've got the Geddy Lee one, same thing. It's a distortion effect pedal for when I do those songs, but the majority of it is literally a straight through sound. So because the sound men, they don't like it when you color the sound. Even when we're doing Rush, and I said, well, it's got to be slightly distorted because that's Rush.
Right.
They're not so happy about it. They're kind of like, well, we just rather do that ourselves, and they just want that straight through sound. So
yeah. I get that a lot too, and it's that, like, with all the pedals we have now and IR loading and all these different things, it's like, why would you waste the mic and everything miking a bass cab? But that really is one of the big benefits, is like if you're sending all those different effects and everything, that, I mean, that is your tone. But I get more for even if you have a distorted signal or just an affected signal going, it's like the sound guys are now more wanting a clean DI on top of that, so they can kind of like
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. Yeah, they don't like it when you mess around too much. I mean, and because I play the P bass, I'm saying that works for the majority of songs.
Yeah.
I do have a lovely 68 jazz bass that I use,
Nice.
and I got this lovely 72 P bass.
Oh, beautiful.
I got that in Nashville recently.
That
And I
came
wanted it because it's got the old school logo, which is the same one that Dee Dee Ramone and Sid Vicious had, and that's the only reason.
I love that. 70s, yeah.
Did they call that the TV logo? I think, right?
I'm
because
not sure.
because it was so much bigger, and you could see it from if you were watching a bass player on TV. You could see the logo. Yeah, that's one of my favorite. That's my favorite era of P bass too.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love this one, and this one still sounds better if I'm honest. It's just I've tried to find out about it. And for some reason, at a certain point, they were using a certain kind of wood that's ridiculously heavy, and just the resonance of that when it's just acoustic is so loud. It's just I just love it. It's great. And it's got Seymour Duncan pickups in it. So like I say, I've not long got this one, so I've got it, but it's really light compared to that one.
Yeah.
So, but I'm going to send it to my luthier and get it Waynified.
Nice.
Badass bridge and Seymour Duncan's in it and all that kind of thing. So
yeah.
No, pretty much that's it. It's just those two sounds, unless we're playing fretless, and we did do a bit of fretless work a few years ago. So, and I've got a kind of hybrid Yamaha thing that I've made up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't. That is the age old question though, Wayne, is bass players in front of house guys. It's most front of house guys are going to want the clean sound, but now in my case, if I have a Helix, I'll have an HX Stomp with the B15 in front of it. And they'll come up and say, "What are you sending me?" It's like, it's just, I'm just using the HX for effects. Like, I'm not even letting them know I'm sending them a B15. Now, of course, they know. Watch them, but it's just like, can you work with the sound that I send you? Because,
I mean, a few years ago, you sent me the SCR DI, which I have here. It's just in front of me. And what I do is when I get a new DI, I'll take it up to our front of our house guy, Pete. I've got to shout out to Pete because he's a great guy. I'll send it out to him, and we'll get my paddle board. We'll put it in the front of house, and we'll have it in the house massive, and I'll let him tweak it.
Yeah, that's smart.
And that's what I did with my Cali 76 as well. I let the sound guys tweak it.
Yeah,
and they go, that's what we want. And I did that. I don't know, 20 years ago, and I've never changed it. I've sent it to everybody, and they just go, "Yeah, that sounds great." And I just go, "Great," because the sound man did it and not me.
Yeah, and it's a happy medium. You're using what you want to use, and the sound guy's, he's getting what he needs to, or she's getting what she needs. So
Well, in fact, all the mystique is basically it's no EQ and a very little bit of compression that's so transparent you don't even know you're using it, but it just keeps it in, and that's it really. Back from the days when you were a kid and it was all EQs and all the rest of the stuff.
This thing, we get you on this. This is what.
I've got it here.
This is what saved me on the last tour, because I'm sending the IR, the thing we talked about like why anymore. Like this is front of house, and this is my tone stack for front of house, but then I do through into, if I ever have an amp for stage volume, then the amp is like a totally different thing for what I want on stage, and worked really well for me.
Wayne's got his plugged up. Go.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean that basic.
Yeah.
That to me is a great. What I wanted, a basic clean sound.
Yeah.
And on a P bass, it's that noise. That's if it does that, I'm in.
Yeah.
And I haven't even got to the grit section yet. I've just gone for that. Get that basic sound.
Yeah.
Which is more or less flat, but with just a bit of 500 taken out. So you need really. You know?
Man, that's such a P bass maple sound. That's perfect. That's like the P bass.
That's my favorite. Yeah.
There's just I was going to say this earlier too, man. There's something about a P bass, a like I won't even say 1/0, but I know I'm going to say this the wrong way, but there's something about a P bass that's been in the same hands,
Yeah,
player for however long, since you were 18 years old. But the reason, a lot of the reasons why that bass sounds the way it does is because that has been vibrating in your hands for however many years you've had it since you were 18.
40 years nearly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that bass has vibrated. I'm not to get weird, but when a bass vibrates in the key of G, the key of A, the key of E, and the key, you know what I mean? Certain keys, it just it knows. It's like when I get in my car, like I know my front end's going to wiggle at 75 miles an hour, but at 72 miles an hour, it's smooth as silk. You know what I mean? It's just
I know what you mean. Yeah, it. I mean, I love it. That's why I don't like to play. I mean, I've got way too many basses as it is, but that's why I don't want to change, because it just fits you like a glove. So you just concentrate on playing the song. You're not fighting the instrument. It's just everything's automatically there, isn't it? Without you thinking, you can just play music. I just want to mention that about Ampeg as well, because there was a little question where when did you discover it? And I remember doing a session when I was about 29 years old with an old English producer called Mickey Most. He did Susie Quattro and a lot of things back in the day.
Wow.
And I remember he bought in for this recording session, he bought in an Ampeg. I think it was a combo, a BA or something like that. One of the BA combos, 115, something like that.
Yeah.
And it was the first time, because up until then we were all going for the boutique stuff or the Trace Elliott stuff with the big graphic, because it looked great,
Sure.
But it was never like warm enough for me. And I remember just playing an 8th note groove, and it was probably on E or A, nothing special.
Yep.
But it just you were just like, it was like chocolate. It's just like, oh, and the whole song was going. And that to me was like, from then on, it's just been, I'm only getting an Ampeg and that's it,
Yeah.
And it is true. Nothing else seems to do that to me.
Yeah. No, it's I always equate it to like it's like sitting in a big comfy chair that you've had your whole life. You know what I mean? You sit in the chair, it's like, oh, all right, I know where every lump is, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no, man, that's thank you for sharing that, because that's I think we've all gone through that, and I say this to anybody that has played Ampeg and then they've moved on to other brands and then they come back to Ampeg. And it's funny because we'll be at NAMM, and we'll always have an SVT at NAMM, and people will come in, they'll plug in the SVT and they'll be like, man, I haven't played to an SVT in years, but wow, I guess and you just see the lights start. It's like, oh, I've been playing X brand for, I had this on tour for the last whatever. And then they come in and they plug into an SVT or B15 or any Ampeg for that matter. And they go, why did I ever leave? Like, why did I, it's like, well, things happen. You get offered certain deals. And
I mean, that's it. You get offered deals and things and you do it. But I've never strayed from the Ampeg thing, because I remember eventually getting a deal with yourself, I think many moons ago, and it's been nice as well, because when Robin died and I lost that gig, you kept the deal, whereas I was with other guitar brands at that time, and as soon as I lost that gig, I lost that brand. They were quite ruthless about it, and go, oh, you're not doing that big gig anymore, you're not having that anymore, and it's kind of like,
No, I think the artist relations manager for Ampeg these days.
You can find it.
No, but I always, and I will say this to anybody that's watching that's wondering, we, you endorse us, first of all.
Yeah.
We don't endorse you. You endorse us. And that's for any artist that has a relationship with Ampeg. You guys all endorse us. We don't do anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's a two-way street in that respect. But the other thing I always say is we work with the player, the artist. You know what I mean? Whether you're on a big gig or a small gig, if we're working with you, we're working with you because we love what you do, and you're part of the family. You just don't kick
really. I distinctly remember sending you an email about that when Robin had died, And I remember your reply was very much like that. And I was really surprised because I'd got a string deal and a guitar deal with a different company. I don't really want to name. And they were just so abrupt about it. And I thought, oh, that's going to happen with every product now because I've lost the big gig. Because, I'm not, I don't claim to be the most famous bass player in the world at all. But, it was just a really nice thing, meant a lot.
No, that's as long, I mean, I know I'm going to get myself a lot of trouble here if I say but no, seriously, if you are part of the family, you're part of the family. And in retrospect, that's why some people over the years, it's kind of hard to get in the family. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to sound like a dick, but it's like, we don't let everybody into this family for that reason, because once you're in, it's, it's like joining the Greek. It's like joining the Greek mafia. Once you're in,
I told you the story. I told you the story about when my daughters were kids, and I'd have my two little. I've got two SVT 8. What are they called? AV10s. The two 10s. So I've got them in a flight case, and I'd come in from a gig. And they'd sit on it, and they called it Ampeg the Wonder Horse, and I'd roll them around the house in it. and it was a TV show that used to be on TV. And they'd sing it. And so I came off tour literally like 2 weeks ago or whatever, and I get it back. My wife's filming me, and I had to sit on it, and she sent it to the kids saying, the Wonder Horse is back. It's back.
That's awesome.
That's a better name for it. We should just call it that from now on.
My own brand.
Yeah. When we do a signature rig, we're going to call it Wayne's Wonder Horse. Oh man. Well, listen, we went way over time, Tom. I apologize if you're missing meetings. So you can just
no, it's all right. I bet all the fans have gone home, haven't they? Fans.
No, seriously. I'm not going to go through all the names, but man, you have a very dedicated and beautiful fan base here. So thank you for bringing your fans onto SVT time as well. But seriously, man, thank you so much for your time. It's great seeing you again, and hopefully we'll see you back here in the States at some point. I
can't wait when we're back, hopefully. I mean, I think there's plans for next year. But who knows? You never know, do you?
Yeah, nope, you never know. But always know, you got a place here, and man, absolutely. We'll
That's
definitely.
Very kind of you. Thank you very much.
And I know we're still at some point we had talked about getting you getting a Heritage 50th. So let's keep that discussion going too. So
Look forward.
Also, for anyone, there's been a few SVT times, and this one included. And I just want to say, with Hank, we're listening to you. Anybody who has like product ideas and they want to, there's some comments about them. We do take note of these. And if you ever go to Idea Scale, if you go to ampeg.com, you can check out, there's a link to Idea Scale, and we do periodically check that and what people want us to make. So we definitely check that out. So thank you, Hank, for the suggestion.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Tom, because I was wondering, I wasn't sure if that was a suggestion he was looking for, but yeah, cool.
We'll call it Wayne's Wonder Horse. Of
course.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, Wayne, thank you again, man. I know it's getting late there too. You're in the UK, so man. Dom, thank you as well. Aaron, thank you. Haji, thank you for being there, and of course, everybody that chimes in. Like I said, we do this because you guys watch it. Otherwise, we'll keep on doing it until they tell us to stop doing it. So.
Well, thanks for asking me. I've really enjoyed it. Lovely to see you again, Dino, and
always.
Thanks for everything. Lovely to meet you, Dom, and Erin as well, who's in the background.
Yep.
Brilliant.
So don't hang up just yet. We're going to end the broadcast, and we'll
We'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
See you guys.
Cheers, man.